Yeah, so we're gonna start breaking down another shot. Uh, Now it's kind of interesting. I know that one of the things that's really popular out there right now is the VFX Artists React, and I love that series. Those guys really know what they're talking about, and it's all stuff that I'm familiar with, right? Um, so there are a number of different things that are involved in creating a shot, and I hope that I can get to a level where I'm as comfortable as the VFX Reacts guys in terms of breaking down a shot. But there are quite a few different things that I have personal experience with that I can speak volumes about, whether it's just chroma keying and compositing or using a terrain authoring application like World Machine, or going inside Houdini and doing a procedural landscape, or using Massive to create crowd simulations. Goleum Crowd was something I played around with for a little bit back in the day, and so that's sort of a massive AI flocking system type thing. Procedural L systems for trees. Fluid dynamics based. Well, I doubt it's fluid based fog, unless you had a character breaking through that fog of war. It's probably a 2D composite. Definitely sort of fluid dynamic flames happening. Yeah, like lots of different little things. Color correction using DaVinci and trying to find your adjusting your lift, gamma, and gain. There's lots of stuff we can talk about, right? But specifically, what I want to focus on is, what do you take a look at this stage when you're on a green screen stage, and what do you do to break it down? It's interesting to see the treadmills thing, because I remember proposing that once when I was at Electronic Arts. We were working on what eventually became Need for Speed: The Run, and we were talking about initially back in the day it was the mocap space. So I spent a little bit of time trying to track down a treadmill that didn't have the kind of stand-up bars and things, just one of these guys. So it's kind of interesting to see that there, because I remember hunting high and low. I spent an entire day hunting high and low for treadmills of this variety that didn't have the guide rails or what have you. I'm actually thinking about ordering that for the university, because there's lots of stuff that you can do in a confined space. I also remember thinking about a type of turntable as well, right? So we could have various degrees of motion and things like that, sort of a turntable stage. But yeah, anything. When it comes to setting up green screen props and things like that, there's no set way of doing anything as long as it's covered with green. They could have had a dude, like a huge, muscle-bound, massive shoulders, no neck dude holding Iron Man up like that. As long as he was wearing green, there's anything and everything that you can do to get your actors into on the chroma stage, right? So this is interesting, because looks like they brought them into a smaller facility to get these plates, whereas in a larger facility, let's pop back. Oh, it's not in this video, but when there's a huge sort of battle scene, right? They're in obviously a much larger space, and it's designed more like you've got the green screen sights that are curving away from the wall and all that kind of business. Although it was interesting. I saw ones that were kind of angled a little bit. Let me see if I can find that, actually. It's worth speaking about ever so briefly. Yeah, I think it's this guy here. Let's pop down. Well, let's skip the advert. Vellum, nice. Houdini Vellum. Okay, so yeah, it's in this one here, right? So there are a few shots that I thought were interesting. I wanted to talk about, right? Oh yeah, that's the. All right, so let's pop this up. Yeah, this shot here, right? So there are a number of different things that we can observe. So there are the Sykes here that take out that hard edge that happens when the green screen drops and connects with the floor, which you saw in the previous shot. And it just smooths it out a little bit and diffuses the lighting a little bit, so it's not so hard for those who are doing the chroma keying to pick that green out. But it's interesting to me because these look just like hard angles, right? Whereas the ones I'm accustomed to have that curve, right? It's interesting. I think these guys here, the witness cams, they've got quite a few of those, which is interesting. So this guy is providing the camera data, I'd imagine, of the camera that we're looking through right now. So this is the camera crew capturing the shot. I don't understand why they would have maybe witness cams. Well, I guess they want to, they want to track the positions of each of the individual actors, which is really, really important, and get their spacing and their distancing and all that kind of stuff. But I would definitely have a few cameras sort of pointed towards whatever rig that they got on here. Was it a dolly? Oh, it's a crane. Crane on tracks? Yeah, it's definitely a crane on tracks. Right? And then so we're pushing in and coming down. Oh, actually, no, it's because a lot of the Luma cranes also have an extendable arm, right? So it could just as easily, it could be locked off. I only pause and say that because it looks to me on that particular stage, they might be limited for space, right? So perhaps it's just telescoping in, just on a telescoping arm. Okay, so this is interesting to me, right? So this isn't exactly previs, or is it? I don't know if this is the state of previs in this day and age. This looks more like a developed, a little bit more of a developed pass. It's really interesting because I could just say, oh no, they've just cooked out an ambient occlusion pass and faded in all the shaders afterwards, the textures, etc., etc. But it doesn't look like that. It's definitely gray untextured, but that's full animation, right? So interesting. Yeah, that's all full animation, right? So yeah, interesting stuff. I was just looking around for a clip that we could possibly use today when we take a look at our database. But let me talk about how I've broken up our database a little bit more, and we'll take a look at it. Just gonna see if I can pop this guy open. It's interesting to me that the industry is continuing to use FileMaker Pro just because, where are you now? Just because there are a few other very, very interesting solutions out there. I'm surprised there's no integration with F-Track or Shotgun, or is there? I've come across integration between FileMaker Pro and Shotgun. I think it's in the form of a plugin. So I think that's worth investigating. So it'd be nice to just pick up that data that you have in your FileMaker Pro database and migrate it into Shotgun. But it really kind of depends on how you've set up the connective tissue between onset data wrangling and what you've got going on with your facilities team. So let's take a look. VFX data. I did a revamp, but I believe I put it in a template. So there's my 1705. I'll probably save this off as a version again. I need to come to grips with the sharing. So is a shared file. Opening a shared file directly from a remote volume will reduce performance and affect reliability. That's cool. You should instead share the file by opening it with FileMaker software on the same computer where the file is stored on disk. You can then open the file remotely from your computer using the show hosts command. Do you still want to open this file? Yeah, let's open it. So that tells me cannot share a file because FileMaker network sharing is turned off. Yeah, that tells me. So you need wow. So you need a central server. I wonder if the Perforce server would be good for this. So if you have a central server, excuse me. So if you have a central server for your iterative asset development, would it be worth just chucking this on there as well? you know, as in one of the support documentation folders to have all that, or actually it might be better to have a separate document server. Actually having your document server tied to your asset server is probably not a good idea. Okay, so I'm just popping this open. Let's take a look and walk you guys through some of the changes I've done in here, right? So I've added a few things that personally I wanted to try. First of all, I've just tidied up the layout a little bit, right? I could probably do with putting borders and frames around stuff, but that's just me, right? So I haven't changed anything up here other than to add a weather, indication of weather, right? It's not like you absolutely need that information, but it is kind of helpful, right? So if you run into some sort of weird lens artifact and you go, why is the light behaving that way? And you check it out and you go, oh, actually, it looks like it started to rain on that day, right? Well, obviously, it would be an on location thing, right? Here we've got set location, right? So, and then I've just sort of tidied up the aspect ratio a little bit of this thumbnail. It's not really a big deal. And then I've added a few different things. So in here, some of the CG elements that I wanted to identify, right? There's the 2D composite. There's a 3D character, and they had a 3D vehicle as well. But it would also be good to note where a 3D environment is required, and I know there's set extension as well. And 3D prop. There could be a key 3D prop that's not a vehicle, right? So there's an area for blue screen and green screen. I also added cosmetic fix. That could be a smaller priority thing. There's crowd. There's an environment effects as well, right? So does there have to be, some sort of, well, again, with fluid smoke, the only reason you would go to fluid smoke is if you had some sort of character or prop or vehicle or some CG asset interacting with the smoke, causing swirls and eddies to go flying off and things like that. Other than that, otherwise you would deal with any kind of environment effects in the comp, really, as much as possible. There's explos, right? So if you want a good, I suppose you could find a good 2D library, but the thing about explos, especially slow ones, it'd be nice to kind of craft that inside of some sort of simulation in some sort of solver, right? So whether you do it inside of Houdini or using Maya's Nucleus, whatever, right? So that's something I definitely want to indicate. Graphics. So graphics can be anything from, the chevrons for a news report to, basically motion graphics, really. Matte painting, monitors and screens. I always like to kind of keep that separate, just because you can do a variety of those different shots in a single pass. So you can have like shot 5, 6, 20, 30, 31, 32, and then have them all together and just have this one kind of monitor, procedurally generated monitor thing worked out, and you can just plug it in where you need to do a corner pin track or whatever and get that in. Things that need to be painted out. I think I've also got Roto, right? So yeah, that's a bit of a crossover, right? But I've always referred to it as Roto, so I just checked that in there. Rig removal, and this is more, I think, painting out, roto, and rig removal can sort of be lumped into one category, but it's stuff that can be farmed out. Actually, match move. You know what? I think match move's a given, actually. Set extension, we got there. Things that need simming. I suppose that could be environment effects. Probably just put it sim. And this was default under protest. I love that. That's really good. So I left that in there. Now, media that needed to gather on set. So this is how I'm starting to think on a very, very high level. My thoughts are scattered, right? So we got on one side, the facilities side, the assets that need to be generated. On the other side, it's the production side, where we need to talk about the data that needs to be gathered. So this is this, right? So we need our CBGBs, right? So the chrome ball, gray ball. The term CBGBs was coined by Robert Duncan, visual effects supervisor. He did the RoboCop remake. He's done, I think he's done the Mission Impossibles, and he's just a brilliant guy. Super nice guy to work with. We need to grab a clean plate. Cube, I don't know what that is. I don't know what the cube is, unless it's what I've done in the past is I've created a 1 meter by 1 meter cube, like physical cube, that you set up on set or on location. That gives you two pieces of information: perspective and parallax, and scale. Right. So I've generally done that to try to capture that information. Is that what that cube is? I chucked in element shoot, just in case. You know, we have this big fight scene in a chandelier, and the chandelier shatters, drops and shatters, and there might be necessity once the camera crews move on to leave an artist behind to just shoot the chandelier, possibly blocking it off with some black flags, and then just shooting the chandelier so we can get that both on and off, right? There's making sure you get a gray card. I've also put in the lens grid in Macbeth, right? So that's arguably pre-production. Well, definitely the lens distortion grid. So all of your lenses should be gridded prior to shooting, right? But I just chucked it in there for myself, right? Same with the gray card and the Macbeth card. They're generally a given. That's part of your day-to-day process, right? There's indication of whether or not we need mocap data. And this is different from mocap studio data. So this would, well, not that different, because it could also be mocap studio data. But this is generally, more and more we're starting to see motion capture being integrated on set on the day of shooting, right? I think the first example that comes to mind is Bill Nye playing Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean, where he was actually mocapped on set. You know, there's grabbing a pano. This is for myself as well. As much as possible, I want to try to grab a 360 of everything, right? Photos, of course, any and all photos. Puppet pass, that's something I've added in as well, right? More and more we're starting to see CG characters being represented by puppets. Survey diagram, I think, was already in there. Textures, I put that in because you're always wanting to grab textures of everything, right? Tile set, virtual set, I'm not entirely sure what those are, right? And then, of course, your witness cams need to be set up, right? So you can see it's quite a comprehensive list. This list on the right is the most important one for us in terms of what we need to do on the day. This list is when we get the sides and we take a look at what's being shot, we need to figure out what element is what, right? So, let's see, what else did I add? Camera head, camera mount. The film stock, I believe I added no, I didn't. So film stock, ASA, white balance, and the resolution, all cool. Camera movement description, really brief. Some other kind of reference images. And there we go. So what did I add here? Take, roll, filter, shutter. I added aperture, right? I'm curious as to why aperture wasn't noted, but that's something I think that I'd want to have. Oh, actually, that's why it's not noted. It's right here. How many stops? Well, there you go. All right, so we got frames per second, lens ID, focal length, start and end. If it's a zoom shot, right? The height, if it's a camera move, tilt as well, and focus distance, right? Plus some notes, etc. So that feels pretty comprehensive to me. I think that this is a good list to sit back and sort of analyze and see what you need, right? So let's pop this guy. Actually, I'll keep this up here. And we'll pop back over here and let's take a look. I think I went over here to find a good sort of VFX type shot. I want to find something. That's interesting, eh? The Matrix, the dudes in the green suits. But I want to find something that's a little bit of mix, right? So we're on a live action set. That's kind of interesting. Let's see what this has to offer. We'll pick one and we'll see if we can work it. All right, so whilst that ad is going on, I'll pop back out to the home screen. So this was practice 1. This wasn't the practice shot that I did, though. Let's see. So that's record 1. That's record 2. We got 11 records in total. Well, let's revamp this at record 1, right? Okay, so wanted to find. We've done those ones. Oh, that looked pretty good here. It's too quick. Oh, let's see if we can find something. Yeah, see, I'd like to track something down that happened on location or on a set. That one might. No, that's a crew photo. Hey! All right. Entire CG set? I think so. So, oh, wrong. Holy cow, that's cool. That's good to see, though. How do you sell an illusion effectively? By including some real-world objects within the shot. It makes it so much easier to visually blend in CGI effects to a believable level, right? Okay, so yeah, that might not. Oh, that might be a good shot to discuss. This one right here. Huh, okay. Yeah, let's talk this one through. So it's interesting to me. It looks like so they're just using optical markers. Interesting. I've used a Animozu suit, and with the Animozu suit, it's not an optically based tracking system, although the optical mocap system was a little bit more accurate. I must admit, the data was a lot better. The Animozu suit used a series of gyroscopes feeding data to a breakout box, and then we could collect that motion data. We had trouble with world orientation, because apparently the Animozu suit doesn't know up from down, which I'd imagine they sorted out in later iterations. But yeah, even on the old Vicon optical system, 8-camera Vicon optical system, we got better data, better motion data, less jitters and stuff in the motion data. It was easier to work with. Not that exciting, but let's go for it, right? So we're going to leave the slate at 22 AC. How do I do this? Where no, it's auto resizing. That's all right. Let's just deal with that. Okay. I'll pop this down this way. Okay. So let's do a quick print screen and grab this guy. That's our shot. And I come over here, copy that. Paste this guy in there, right? Get rid of these guys. That's the photo display, and let's pop back out to our full layout. There we go. And so, what are we looking at? So this script time is day, right? Dusk or dawn? No, it's an interior shot. Not worried about the date. No, the weather. So this is where it comes in quite handy, actually, right? Because one of the things that Mark Ruffalo is being lit by is exterior lights, practical lights, on-set lights, right? So you'll see an effective use of practical on-set, on-location lighting in the film The Prestige, where the DOP and the director went out of their way to use as much natural lighting as they could, right? So here, this is unmistakably daylight, right? So this is really kind of important because psychologically, at a very, very subtle level, we can tell what the weather is like based on a light cast because we've grown up with it our entire lives. We understand the micro infinitesimal visual signals that allow us to interpret what the time of day is and what the weather's like. I say that now and watch one of the DOPs that worked on this going, no, buddy, that's a big couple of HMIs, Klieg lights just beaming through, diffusion, meters and meters of diffusion and to generate that light. But it's good to know. At any rate, we're trying to get a nice sunny afternoon, right? So the location here would be the cafe, right? And would this be on location? That's a tough one. I'd imagine it's on location, right? So let's just say on location. I'd imagine you list what the location was there. HDRI, yes, we grab an HDRI. Cafe 1, something like that. And element type, this is it's not a background plate. Underwater, non-VFX. It's a foreground plate. I think so. Huh. Yeah, so there must be a differentiation. So for me, a background plate would be anything that's a distance shot, right? A sky replace, something like that. So foreground plate must be the main plate. So I think so. All right, so scene description. The Hulk laughing it up in a cafe, right? Something like that. Okay, so for the shot to work, what do we need? We obviously need a 3D character. We will need to do a 2D composite. Do we need a 3D environment? Are we going to LiDAR scan this thing? Now, if Hulk was wearing armor, actually, no, not necessarily. No 3D props, no 3D vehicles. We don't need a green screen. We don't need a blue screen. We do need a clean plate. Matte painting, no. Paint out, roto. Rig removal? No, we don't have rig removal there. You know what? Paint out and roto are the same thing. I might remove that, right? Set extension, we don't need that. Okay, cool. So what do we need? We definitely need CBGBs. We need a clean plate. We don't need a cube because there's enough scaling information. In a pinch, we can work it out, right? We need an element shoot for this shot. I don't think we do. No, we don't, right? I was just thinking maybe the lights in case Mark Ruffalo's head kind of blocks one out, but it doesn't look like it, right? So that's okay. We don't need an element shoot. Definitely the gray card and the lens grid. An HDRI, absolutely. We need that for the CG Hulk. We need the Macbeth chart. There you go. We're capturing mocap data on set, in situ, right? So I would take a panel, definitely. Yeah, definitely photos. I don't think we necessarily need a survey diagram. Not for this shot. We might want a few textures and witness cams, right? Wow, so there's a lot to grab there. Okay, and then we identify the camera. I'm not sure what they, let's see, what did they use to shoot the Avengers? Camera used shoot Avengers. What camera did they use to film the Avengers? Arri Alexa. There we go. Arri Alexa for digital, Arriflex for film, I'd imagine. Canon EOS 5D Mark II and the EOS 7D. Woo! All right. So we'll leave it at the Arri Alexa. And there's no mount on here. Ooh, cool. I did not know this was a populated list. That's cool. We got Steadicam, got legs, dolly, Techno crane, Scorpio crane, GF crane, jib, slider, Steadicam, hi-hat, handheld, cherry picker, rickshaw, bazooka crane, tracking vehicle, the legs, flatbed, quad bike, Steadicam, sliding plate, western bungee, underslung Cartoni track, high beam slider. I am going to investigate that because I think it's crucial that one of the things that we understand are the different types of camera mounts that are available, right? And I'll give you an example. So, on location, well, actually, on set, this was in the studio, there are many, many different moments where the different types of head mounts would be discussed. And it was really sort of important that I was definitely on the ball in terms of what gear we need to coordinate with the grip trucks and things like that in the camera department, right? So that was really important. Let's see if this is a populated list. It is. Panahead, Tango, Airyhead, right? So we need to get familiar with these three areas. I think that's really important, right? So film stock, not a drop down. ASA, not a drop down. Not really. Okay, so this information is absolutely key, I think, as well as the lens information, right? So we'll get to that in just a second. So this is sort of practical information about this. So let's say it's Arri Alexa shooting 16:9. That would be 4K. I think those are the Epics. The Venice. Let's say it's a Venice 6K. Let's say we're shooting with a Venice. I can't populate that list. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take a look at that list. This is a locked off shot, which makes life so much easier, right? And then we've got the take and the roll, any filter. So they might have put a neutral density filter on this guy, just to tone down the reflectivity. Take 2 has a value of quarter wave retarder. Do you want to see the later takes? Set the later takes? No. Shutter. I'm not sure. And the stops, not sure. Frames per second, 24 frames per second. In all likelihood. Lens ID. Oh, so these are the serial numbers. So they're really, really tracking which lens, which serial number. That looks like there's a little bit of a depth of field, but there's yeah, I think that lens is pushing the background backwards a bit. A little bit of depth of field. Let's say that's maybe a 40mm lens? Maybe? Okay, so the focal length. So this is for zoom lenses, but in our case it'd be 40mm. So that's a prime, right? And same with this guy, 40mm lens. Lens height. So we're slightly below eye level. We're probably, so seated, we're about there. So it's probably 4 feet high. Something like that. So that would be a 4 foot high camera. And that's definitely something that we would need to measure, right? And it would end on that as well, right? Just delete this guy. There is a slight tilt. So, you know, maybe a plus 10. I don't think there's an end tilt to that. And focus distance, no idea. No idea how far the focal plane is to the actor. So we'll just, are we 2 feet away? 5 feet away from the actor. That's the other thing. What units do you generally tend to use? Okay, so that's that for that shot. And then what happens afterwards, right? So how do we utilize that data? Well, the big thing is the HDRI, right? To get the lighting conditions on the Hulk, the animators will likely have built proxy props that the Hulk can interact with, right? So we got indications of that there. The background's fine. Mostly it's the interaction with the foreground elements that are crucial for this. Yeah, there we go. So he grabs that burrito, right? And obviously the motion capture data needs to be utilized, right? So here again, we only get things like the wrist tilt, hand tilt positioning from the mocap data. So finger animation would be the animator. We would also get nothing in terms of cloth. So the cloth is likely simulated either by using Vellum technology in Houdini, or I don't know if they would use Marvelous Designer for this kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. And so we've got the capture cameras here. And is Mark Ruffalo dotted up? I don't think he is. Is that even necessary these days? No, he's not dotted up, right? Because I'd imagine what looks to be, are they GoPros? No. I wonder what those cameras are, right? But they're capturing all that facial information. So that's good. There's 2 cameras there. So that's kind of interesting. I might want to investigate as to why there's 2 cameras there. But there we go. Okay, let's keep doing this. Next time I am going to become a little bit armed with this info, and that info, right? And then we'll kind of pick it up from there. Just a quick little run through. Oh, I'm getting the, do you want to be famous? Let's ban you. I don't want to be famous. Let's ban you. Crikey. All right, so we'll leave it at that. It's tough doing these first thing in the morning, eh? Okay, we'll leave it at that, and I will catch up with you guys later. I'm going to keep doing this to just sort of exercise that particular part of the brain. Okay, I will talk to you guys later.